She has raised, educated, and mentored some of the most successful people in the United States, including her own children. Two of Esther Wojcicki's daughters grew up to become CEOs, and the third is a renowned scientist and doctor. Among the famous names on her list of former students are Lisa Brennan Jobs, the daughter of Steve Jobs, as well as actor James Franco and basketball player Jeremy Lin. So, what's her secret to guiding so many young minds to success?
This is Esther Wojcicki, and this is why you should listen to me.
Welcome to the SCMP studios, Esther. It's really great having you here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here too.
So you are well known for raising very successful daughters.
Yes.
And a beacon in the educational field. And you're also famous for developing the TRICK or trick model.
Yes.
Can you tell us how that came to be and what it represents?
Well, the trick model was developed. I developed it about 40 years ago. That was long before anybody else ever thought of it. And I did it more because I saw that the conventional system didn't work. Students were bored. I was bored. And all they were doing was memorizing. And then after they memorized, like 2 weeks later, they forgot what they learned. So I decided to change the system. I don't know what possessed me because I was just a new teacher, but I decided that students needed to work more collaboratively. And in the 1980s, 90s, and even early 2000, in the US, collaboration in the classroom was called cheating. Yes, if you look back historically, you'll see that you're always supposed to do the work yourself, never to work with anybody, but always alone. And so I decided that this collaboration was a better way for students to learn to do anything, and including math. I was teaching math the same way. And so then I continued it even more. I added more opportunity for students, and I changed the acronym from just trusting them to the whole acronym, which is TRICK. Trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness.
One of your books is How to Raise Successful People. And do you think that that actually puts more pressure on children to succeed? And you were also known to be quoted to say that you actually went from educating children to parents.
Yes.
And can you tell me the link between these two things?
So it does not put more pressure on students to succeed with my method. What it does is it gives them the freedom to do what they come up with, their ideas of what to come up with in class, and then work together with their friends to do it. So can you imagine, a young kid, age 14, 15, they're given the responsibility of working with their friends. I mean, what kid doesn't want to do that? And then working on a project they come up with. I mean, you never have to fight with them. The big fight I had was I wanted them to go home, and they never wanted to leave. So most teachers, when the class is over, the kids run out. This is just the opposite. Kids never want to go home because they're there with their friends, working on projects they like, and they also have snacks because I wanted to make sure they weren't starving. They spend so much time there. So that answers question number one. And the question number two about parents, I am trying to educate parents now because there's such stress with parents. They're all worried that their kid is never going to make it. They're worried their kid is not going to be number one. And let's be realistic. Out of 100 kids, there's only one number one. What about the other 99? So they're all going to be successful in my book. I worked on so they can all get an A grade in my class. How did they do that? Revise until they get it right. So nobody does it right the first time. Nobody. If you ride a bike, you fall. You jump in the pool to swim. You don't look very good to start. So why is it that it's okay for us to practice in sports, but in school we're supposed to do it right the first time? Makes no sense. So that's what I work on, giving kids an opportunity to revise and continue to revise until they get it perfectly. And then once they get it perfectly, they know how to do it. And it doesn't matter how long it took them. Just do it.
And on the flip side, here in Hong Kong and Asia, there has been that term that's coined tiger moms.
Yes, I know about them.
Now, and if you want your children to get into a better school, I'll say this like that, and if you don't have the resources to send them to alternative schools with international schools that have a different philosophy, then you don't have a choice but to enter that race. Now, what advice would you give the parents in this region that are caught in that thinking?
Yeah, I think if you're trapped in the public schools in this race, and the only way to get into the university is to do really well on these tests, I think you're trapped. It's very hard for parents to make any changes in that system, especially if it's public, right? So I guess I would just like to recommend to China, to the people around that make decisions about education, that if you give kids a certain percentage of time in this curriculum to think independently and be creative, the Chinese education system can be absolutely the best in the world. Right now it's good, but it's too stressful. It's too much pressure on the kids. And then you have very unhappy kids and unhappy adults. But if they gave 20% of the time at school for kids to be creative and do something they personally wanted to do, it would change the dynamic of everything in China.
Interesting that you mentioned China. Now, Linda McMahon is the U.S. Secretary of Education, and the Trump administration is actually paring back on their investment in education. And how would you say the current view, your current view, of the U.S. education system versus China right now, who have put a lot of resources in closing the wealth gap and hence steadfastly invested in education?
Well, I'm sorry to say, I think the U.S. is already behind and is going to get even more behind. I think it's a tragedy that they're closing down the Department of Education at the national level in the United States. I don't know what they're thinking. The money we spend today on our children and the way we educate our children today determines the country for tomorrow. And I think China's doing the right thing. You invest in your children and your country succeeds. And you look around the world and see countries that don't have very much investment in education, and the country's doing poorly. So I don't know what Americans are thinking. I don't know what Trump is thinking. But from my perspective, it's very short-sighted.
Here's an important question that all parents are asking. What is the right age to give children their cell phones?
Well, I'll tell you right away, the wrong age is when they're babies, before the age of 5 and before the age of 12. They should not get a cell phone until maybe the earliest would be 13, maybe better a little older. And they should also have to take like a little sort of driver's test, how to drive a cell phone intelligently, how to protect yourself on the web, what you should be doing on the web, how to avoid harassing people, and how to recognize fake news. They don't get that. So they need to learn that before they get a cell phone, to protect themselves and to be an intelligent consumer.
And I think everybody needs a lesson on how to recognize misinformation, not just children, but I think we need more people to actually, create something for children to be like, here's how you...
Well, that's what I would like to do. Spend more time doing that because they're all on a cell phone. There's a book that was published in the U.S. called The Anxious Generation, and he talks about all these kids on their phones, and they're all anxious because they don't interact normally, they interact on their phone. So how can we adapt to that? How can we change that? And that's what I'd like to address.
Do you have any plans on doing that?
You know, I have a new app called Parenting Trick on the Apple Store and the Android Store. And it's like to help parents avoid being helicopter parents. Maybe I'll do that together with my app.
That sounds great. Thank you for your time. It's been really great talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's exciting to be here in Hong Kong.